Now, a number of school bullying incidents have been reported at an alarming rate in Limpopo. Cases have been reported at schools in Polokwane, Moletjie and Louis Trichardt. A learner was expelled from Capricorn High School while another one was suspended. Last week, a video of a learner assaulting others in class at Sinugane High School outside Louis Trichardt was released by one of the learners, sparking outrage. The MEC for Education in Limpopo, Mavhungu Lerule-Ramakhanya, joins us now via video link to address school safety in the province. Good afternoon to you, MEC, and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon to you and also the listeners. Thank you for hearing us this afternoon.
Now, MEC, of course, this has put a highlight and a spotlight in the province in terms of school bullying. When you look at some of the reports that have come out nationally, and you consider that over 160,000 high school learners miss school on a daily basis because they want to avoid being bullied, and that according to one report, 1 in 10 learners drops out of school to avoid being bullied. I mean, these are staggering numbers. And of course, you have a face behind some of these numbers. A 16-year-old girl took her own life in May of this year in Limpopo, and another one in Bolobedu is also attempted to take her own life a few weeks ago. So it just gives you a sense of how wide-scale this problem is. Just talk to us about what the concerns are from your department and what you are doing about it currently in terms of implementations.
Thanks so much. I think we fully agree with the report and the research because, like you have already indicated, as a province, we have got a problem that is on the rise. But you then have to also analyze the factors that are behind why these learners are suffering bullying and sexual assault and these other things that are happening in the schools. You'll then also start to understand that accessibility to the drugs and the usage of the drugs by the learners gives these other learners an opportunity to abuse the other learners and the teachers. And I also fully agree with you that in Limpopo, we are starting to see the rise in suicide. But even outside the school, where now there are members of the community that are starting to abuse the learners. You'll remember our incident where we had to bury a learner that was killed by, and we can choose it as much as it was about rape, but it was about bullying because she's a girl. So what we are doing as the 7th administration, and we have just presented our budgets to the legislature. One, we are continuing with the awareness in our schools, both for the learners and the principals and the SGBs. After successfully launching the SGBs, there are a series of trainings that we are giving to them. And one of the issues that is part of the QLTC training with the SGB is about safety in the schools, so that then the SGBs can be able to protect themselves. There are certain legislations that are there, and one of them that I've picked up is about access to private premises, access to public premises like our schools, which now we are training them. But equally, we are looking at how do we collaborate. You'll know that with safety in schools, the police are going into schools to do random searches. But currently we're saying as they do random searches.
MEC, before we go into the collaborations with the police, because I think that is important because it does speak to the safety of learners and educators similarly. I just want to talk about the bullying policies that are currently at schools. I mean, some of these policies are really not practical to implement. So you of course mentioning various interventions that you are bringing, to the schools. But how can we drill these policies down so that they are understood by learners? Because some of these learners are quite young, and also by educators who also have been accused of some level of bullying, so that it's easy for SGBs, school governing bodies, to be able to then make sure that the schools are actually implementing these policies accordingly.
You know, one of the critical issues for me will be that when we find these cases, the SGB and the schools deal with it decisively. Because now with the type of methods that we do for disciplinary issues in our schools, it takes long for us to be able to finish a case. So when they are both, as the SGB and the learners and the teachers are aware that these activities are not even supposed to be allowed to prolong, then we'll be able to deal with it. Because when they take long to deal with the case, they are still investigating, they call in the parents don't come. I like what has happened in one school, not to promote it, but when the parents did not come, then the school expelled through the SGB and the principal. We then expelled the learners. Then suddenly the parents will then come. So that is why the awareness is very, very critical. And that is where the partnerships now come into place in terms of us on how do we win the battle of fighting bullying and all these other types of ill discipline in our schools. And I know as Limpopo, our educators are equally frustrated. That is why the research will also say we are one province that corporal punishment is still being one of the issues that is part of the bullying to the learners, because other educators find themselves in difficult situation and resort to corporal punishment, which is not wanted.
When we look at the role of the police, I mean, firstly, there are so many acts and pieces of legislature that deal with, bullying in the region of 20 or so, including the Bill of Rights, including the Children's Act, etc., and the Schools Act, of course. When it comes to law enforcement authorities, where will we come? Will there be a time where you actually have to rope them in quicker rather than later, so that they are also able to address some of these challenges that you are speaking of? Because some of them, as you also rightfully say, are not in isolation. There are some things that are being portrayed in society as well.
Yes, there are two issues when it comes to partnerships, especially let's start with the police. The first one is that the police is supposed to align the nearest police station to the schools for supervision, for them to be able to give support to the schools to say any other thing, we are just a phone call away. But the second part of it is when we, as a department, identify hotspots and request the police to go and do random search. The limitation is what you are talking about, the Bill of Rights, where we can just get into a school and test learners without the consent of the parents. So even when we identify, that's why the awareness now and the partnership with the different foundation comes in. When the police goes and find that, yes, here we have done a random search, there is a lot of drugs involved, then you have foundations coming in, individuals that are from the a space like what has happened in the school in Sinugane, where a former psychologist will go in there, and foundations that are adopting the learners that are heavy on drugs, foundations that deals with safety of a girl child comes in, and we do that partnership, because we are saying to the police, we need to identify schools where this is prevalent, and we give you these schools for further attention, not just a random search.
MEC, thank you so much for your time and, of course, putting a spotlight on this particular matter. Let's leave it there for now. All right, of course, that was the MEC for Education in Limpopo, Ms. Mavhungu Lerule-Ramakhanya, there for us, just talking about the scourge of bullying in the Limpopo province.